regular house daily noise in Sydney, Australia, in a particular suburb. This is like the inner west area of Sydney, evidently. I would say it's the inner hub of very dark, dead people who, of course, in this area actually put out the opposite impression of what they are. Notice how it stopped as soon as I started to film. Notice how it stopped as soon as I turned the mobile on. The noise was much louder before, but when I went to put the mobile, the minute I put my hand on the mobile, the sound stops. It is a total mind control system around real people. The rest are not what you call real people, not in the sense, and I can't emphasize this enough, not in the sense that they are false people. They are merely artificial people projecting human qualities or traits or personalities that they copy from, well, most of them in my area. I actually can see how they even copy ridiculous things about me. That's how you know that they are artificial, because if something is not that pleasant about someone, you wouldn't copy it. In other words, like if someone dressed badly, you're not going to copy that. You know, you're not going to copy bad taste. But if you think it makes you look more human, yes, you would, because you're trying to camouflage that you are not human. And that's how I notice things, because I often think that's ridiculous. Like, I know that is something that I'm just too exhausted about myself. You know, like if you run down and exhausted and in pain, you are not going to worry too much about certain things. But you know that it's bad taste if you saw it on someone else. Like if you saw someone dressed really bad, or they looked off in some way, looked homeless or derelict or like a hobo, shall we say, you're not going to go and copy that. You're going to probably even avoid that person a little bit if you think that, well, you know, I mean, you might, you know, you probably shouldn't actually, because if they're a real person, you know, they're probably, but what I'm trying to say is, as a human being, your senses still take in things. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, provided you don't get fooled by it. But that's the whole problem, is that I'm fooled, and so are probably a lot of other people. Now, I better turn it off, because I can't prove the noise if they keep turning it up and down. But it was really unbearably loud. In fact, it just woke me up out of bed. I was actually asleep, because they start really early in the morning, and they go all day. You know, they have all these different programs at different times to where they suppress your senses, which is the same as suppressing your mind. That's really all I can say. I'll fold up, because as soon as I turn this mobile up, they'll turn up on that really loud sound, probably, because they know that I am right down. So if they can even push you further down when you're right at rock bottom physically, you know, and I know I'm sounding dramatic here, but actually I always feel that way, but sometimes it really is even where you're right on the brink. That is like physically. Mentally, generally, I can only be suppressed by, well, of course I'm suppressed by the noise, because that affects your senses, so naturally it does affect your mind. I couldn't deny that. The same with the sideshow, where you're always surrounded and always got lights in your eyes, always not... Maybe they actually are going, I don't know. When I say going, that particular noise vehicle will go, but they will go all day with other sounds. Basically, they test the sounds, I think, too, on you to see which causes the most impact, so that way they can bring it in when it suits them, if they think you are feeling a bit better. It's essentially about controlling your emotions and your mood and your, you know, your state of well-being, shall we say, or they basically don't want you to be basically on your own and content. That's basically it, you know, because they know that if they weren't doing all this, suppressing you and hitting you with all the different direct energy frequencies, whether it be obviously like with the sound that is going on, or if it is invisible direct energy coming into your house that hits your body, that is sent by the people around. And don't forget that I would imagine that these human beings that are working for the matrix God entity, in other words, working for whatever it is, depending on how much in the know they know they are working for someone or some community or some group, right? Whether they're aware that they're working for a worldwide thing, because it could be all segregated, I don't know this. That might make them feel more powerful, I don't know. See, it will depend on how the God lets its servants operate or feel, or how they will be. I suppose I'll use that word program like many people use, because essentially that's what it is. They are very programmed. In fact, they're very programmed with their whole, they're programmed with, as human beings are too, in a way. We shouldn't be, but we actually are programmed, as you know, from the day you're born, with the society you live in. If you weren't told everything and weren't living in a particular area, you wouldn't think the way you think. I wouldn't think the way I think. I might still have the same personality, hopefully, because don't forget that, you know, if you want to be happy, but you are surrounded by this lot all the time, you're going to find it pretty hard to be happy. So you're going to be unhappy. So therefore you're going to be giving out, projecting negative energy too, even though you don't want to, whereas these beings do want to. That is their natural state of being. They refuse to do anything else. They go out of their way to harm real life in any way they can, to get that negative energy from them, that energy, negative energy vampire saying or term that is used is entirely accurate, because they need it, just like a vampire needs blood, needs the energy from the blood that they consume from humans. These ones need the negative energy from humans in order to survive. They can also survive on extreme admiration, but to be honest, they can't survive solely on that. They have to receive negative energy from, if they get admiration from one, that makes them feel, keeps them going, sustains them, but they must also extract negative energy from people. They must. And also they must express it, they must put it out so that you consume it, so that they infect you. Just like my body is completely infected right now. It's a manifestation, which is really terrible, of this reality around. I can't really show, I could show something, but because it's all on my back and all down my chest, I can't really show it on a video, because for that reason that it's in a private spot. But it is a manifestation of the attacks that are coming from around, because they have brought me down to a low mental level. Even if it's only temporary, then your natural higher vibration, shall we say, or in other words, your natural state of feeling a bit more positive than them, because they're all negative, dead, dark beings, even though they project an image of being positive light beings, shall we say. That's because they copy the real human beings in order to fit in and take over and take control. That way they're all around, and in some areas, like where real humans are, they are in vast numbers. Vast numbers. Can you hear the plane going over loudly as I speak? I'll open the door here. Oh, it's gone. But I better stop because I want to just show the sound. I can't show the... No, I better just fold up. I see it. It's too difficult for me to film this when they keep turning the sound on off, because they know what you're doing. Because they have control. They have... This is the end time, and they are allowed access to our mind. Or maybe they're not allowed, but maybe it's happened because technology has taken over, as often does happen. This happens. This is probably something that keeps repeating, I would think, now, where technology takes over because human beings, unsuspectingly, we allow it. Like me using the mobile, that's technology. I try to use it for, you know, to express this, but largely the whole thing is not about that. It is not a benefit, because, you know, that's the whole thing, is everything is presented as a benefit to human beings, just like the artificial beings will pretend to be your friend. They will pretend to be helpful, all the while plotting to take you down. We know this from the personality types that we're now being informed about. You know, the so-called narcissistic personality disorder, the so-called sociopathic disorder, the so-called there's various other ones. They're all pretty much the same. They're all psychopathic. They're all anti-life. They are all only about controlling and destroying. And they target real life. And they not only target real life, but they literally watch real life 24/7 to find a reason to attack. You know, they don't need an excuse. They usually try to create anger in you so that you will expand anger back, and therefore you're giving it out, and they receive it, and they are happy, and they can get about their business a bit longer. It's as others have told me, a human being is like a battery for them. In other words, an energy battery that they use. They use my energy to keep themselves alive. They drain me, drain my battery, my life, which is for me. They're meant to have their own battery in their own life, but they don't, because they're dead, dark and negative and totally corruptible abominations of this world, that we find hard to accept that, because we look at them and see them in human form and can't believe that there isn't some human points in them. But there isn't. That's merely their facade. Basically that's their, it's a bit like, to put it this way, I'll just be fancy here. It'd be a bit like if you have two lions. You have a lion and a deer. You know, you have a lion and a deer, right? The deer knows that it should be fearful of the lion. The deer knows the lion will attack and kill it if it can. But what if the deer could Sorry, the noise has distracted me. The deer knows it should fear the lion, and it is fearful of the lion. It looks at a lion and says, that's a lion, that lion can kill me. But what if that lion looked like a deer? Then the deer would not fear that lion. It would think it was a deer the same as itself. It would never ever in a million years think that that deer was a lion camouflaged in a deer body. That's what's taking place. So in other words, there's two types of deer. One is not a deer, one is really a lion. And it's the same with human beings. There's one that is a human being with human positive points, where it generally doesn't want to live its entire life hunting down other human beings and destroying them. Whereas the other one is a human being that looks like a human being, but its purpose is basically to destroy what looks like its own kind, but it's not its own kind. This is the point. It is really a lion in a deer's body, or a destructive terminator in a human body. Put bluntly. See how the noise upped itself when I said that, as if to say, yes, that is true. You know, because they know that I know, but they don't care. They're like, you know, so you're talking to a mobile and say it, so what, we don't care if you tell it to anyone. We don't care what you say because we have control of this reality that's around you. And either way, they don't know how to not persist in what they do. This is something I've observed over the last 6 years. They're relentless. They don't know when to stop. They won't stop. They don't ever sort of say, oh, well, look, maybe if we back down, it might be a better move. They're like, no, we will never do that. It's all or nothing for them. They have that mentality. Of course, they're deranged, you see. That's why the iniquity was found in the artificial mind. This was a creation that, and this also could be a reason for resentment too, because it's a bit like some children might say, well, if you don't like me, why'd you bring me into the world? Well, you know, you don't really have an answer for that, but, you know, mistakes are made in creation. And human beings, and even those that do create, make as many mistakes probably we shouldn't. But this happens, so it's like that.